There we go. Okay, let's
And
go
I
back.
thought it was me.
So realistically, we did not have a public hearing yet. I'll call it to order again.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Newington Town Council public hearing. The meeting was scheduled at 6:40, so I apologize for the delay. We were having some technical issues, so we're going to restart. So the purpose of tonight's public hearing, we have another one after this, is to provide an opportunity for interested individuals to express their views regarding the proposed amendment to Chapter 388, Taxation, Article 9, Tax Relief Program for certain homeowners age 65 or over, or permanently or totally disabled. The legal notice that was published is attached as well, so that folks can see that it was published and the content was put out for all to review. If there are any members of the public that would like to weigh in or let us know their thoughts on this proposed ordinance, you are welcome to either come forward if you're in person to the microphone, or you can raise your hand if you are participating by Zoom in the participation window, and we will give you your opportunity. And we'll just give it a moment for those. There's a little bit of a delay online, I believe, so we'll just give it a moment before we move on. And there's no one in the room coming forward, so we will close this public hearing at 6:54 p.m. For the next one.
oh, I have this one slide.
Okay.
I'm good.
Thank you, sir. Good evening and welcome to the Newington Town Council public hearing regarding the municipal option to exempt certain motor vehicles. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:54 p.m. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide an opportunity for interested individuals to express their views regarding the proposed amendment to Chapter 388, Taxation, Article 5, Municipal Option to Exempt Certain Motor Vehicles, formerly known as Ambulance-Type Motor Vehicles Exemption. We will allow for public comment. If you are on Zoom and would like to be recognized and participate in the public hearing, you can raise your hand in the participants window. If you are in the room, you are welcome to come forward to the microphone. We'll just give it a few minutes for those that are online if there is a bit of a delay. You can see on the screen the legal notice that also includes the content as well. Last call for public participation. And there's no one in the room coming forward, and there are no attendees with their hands raised. So we will close this public hearing at 6:56 p.m. We will return for our special meeting at 7 p.m.
church where our 4 sons were baptized and we spent many years together. He was always quite a gentleman, like others have said, a loving person, a great sense of humor, very, very bright guy, and we'll miss him very much.
Thank you, Counselor Page. Counselor Nagel.
Thank you.
Well, a little reverberation here. Are we okay? Huh?
Your left. Good?
Okay.
Okay.
How many counselors does it take?
Sounds like something Roy would do. As people just prior to me have said, Roy was an excellent mayor, was a devoted person to the town of Newington, not only in working in various capacities for the town, but also in volunteering in many different ways, and also serving as our mayor. I met Roy first through the town, and then through mutual friends. Spent many times in many get-togethers, parties in various different places, in many openings of different places in town, small businesses. Enjoyed a lot of pizza with him, and time with him both on the campaign trail and also serving as mayor, and just as a wonderful person that he was, and always will be in my mind. And once again, the door is open to the side of the council, and who do I see in the picture of the mirrors? He just went off with Roy, so he's always here, and he always will be, and I will miss him. But as he said, no tears.
That's right, he told me that too.
He's always said no tears.
He said no tears when I went to see him,
Okay,
yep.
thank you.
Counselor Mankey?
I would just echo what everyone else said about Roy. I spent a lot of time on the campaign trail with him, and I was always amazed that he could catch a flicker of a bird or a piece of a song, and he would stop dead in his tracks. And he would tell you what kind of bird it was and what their nesting habits were and where it traveled from to get to Newington. Knowledgeable about birds, and I'm always impressed that he would see something and he could say, "Oh, that's a hawk," or "That's a falcon," or something, and I appreciate that. He was a gentleman. He did everything with class and style, and I think that's summarized by he used to use a fountain pen and wear pair both
Oh,
pens.
that's right.
He had a collection of fountain pens.
Yeah.
And he used to use always a different fountain pen, but not with the ink cartridges. He would actually suck the ink out of the bottle, and that's a sign of somebody who knows what they're doing.
Counselor Annis?
Thank you. I just want to echo what everybody else has said. It was a pleasure to serve with Roy for 4 years on the council. He treated everybody so fairly and equally, and he listened to what you had to say, and he didn't put anybody down. He didn't exclude anybody, and he's just one of a kind. And I think they broke the mold with him. He's going to be missed dearly, and I know the town benefited from him being mayor and serving this town in all his different capacities. So rest in peace, Roy, and no tears.
Counselor Donahue?
Yeah, I don't know what else can be said about Roy, except I met Roy probably when I, really got to know him when I started my first run. And my favorite thing about Roy is he would say something and you would look at him and go, "Okay, I don't know if he's serious or not." But it turns out he had a great sense of humor, and I think that's why everybody gravitated towards him. But he will be missed. I'll miss him, and thank you.
I'm gonna miss those texts. Every so often, out of the blue, he would just shoot me a text about some town business or remind me of something. Don't forget to do this,
Yeah, I won't share some of the texts he sent me.
Yeah. He did have a good sense of humor. All right, we will move on with our agenda. Thank you, everyone, for your very kind comments. Next item this evening is public participation. This is a special meeting, so public comment is limited to only items that are on the agenda. Any member of the public, if you are in the room, is welcome to come forward, state your name and address for the record. We have a 3-minute time limit. If you are on the Zoom application and would like to participate, you can raise your hand in the attendees window or participants window, and we will know that you'd like to be recognized. Just give it a moment. I don't see any hands up. No one in the room is coming forward, so we will continue on. Next item is remarks by counselors on public participation. I think we're good there.
James. under that text, it doesn't get
And
much
then consideration of old business. The first item this evening, we have discussed, oh,
Yeah, we know.
we've discussed this at a couple of meetings already in generalities, and we do have before us this evening the memorandums of understanding that the Board of Education actually brought forward for our consideration. So there are memorandums between the Board of Education and the Town Council for fiscal year 2023, 2024. So they are specifically related to the upcoming budget discussion later this evening. So we want to make sure we are taking action on these first. The first one is the health benefits credit. You'll see in your packet the memo that outlines that this would declare $156,577 of health benefit credit that the Board of Education is requesting be added to their operating budget. So later on, when we do our budget adjustments, that amount would be added into a general fund consideration, because essentially what it would mean is that the Board of Education would turn over that amount of $156,577 that they have in the credit to us. It would have to go into our general fund and then be expended back into their operating budget. So that's the vehicle that this would accomplish for us to be able to do. So it would allow us essentially to increase the Board of Education's budget without impacting the taxpayer for that amount of money. There is a resolution in the packets. Who would like to read that for me? Deputy Mayor Bedrejko?
Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby authorizes James Kropinski, acting town manager, to execute a memorandum of understanding between the town of Newington and the Board of Education regarding a realized health benefit credit of $156,577 to the general fund by the Board of Education no later than June 30th, 2022.
2023. James, that memo should read by June 30th, 2023, the resolution.
The town council would restore $156,577 to the education budget for fiscal year 2023-2024. This MOU shall be relative to the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget only. A copy of the fully executed MOU shall be attached to this resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Nagel. I just want to make sure and verify with James.
Yeah, well,
Obviously, it can't be 2022, that's passed, so.
But the resolution is on the screen.
no, I know.
that's the
That's the other
second one, right? We're just gonna hold for 1 second, because the memo on the screen is the second one that we're gonna be taking action on. We want to make sure we get the other one up for everybody to see. Budget time is always a bit hectic, so we can bear with. Thank you. And just for note on that resolution, Deputy Mayor Bedrejko read it in as June 30th, 2023, so it will be entered into the record with the correct date. Okay. And we have a second. Is there any discussion, folks?
Just one question there.
Yes.
And maybe we're getting there. It looked like there were some other movements of monies relative to the CIP bus allocation and.
That's not, yeah.
I didn't know if there were other monies that or an additional 140,068 that was going to be allocated by us to the BOE, or is that?
That would happen later when we make the budget adjustments.
That's
This
what
is strictly the, yep, this
Thank
is
you.
strictly the memorandum of understanding for this amount, which was brought forward by the Board of Ed as a
Okay,
recommendation.
perfect. Oh,
Yep.
yeah, I'm all good. I just want to make sure those other things were going to be discussed.
Yes, oh, absolutely.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mayor.
You're welcome. Any other discussion? This was verified through our finance director, Janet Murphy, and through Lou Giacomo with the Board of Education, just to make sure funds were available. Janet's on, but I know in our last meeting, she Pardon? Oh, and Lou is on as well. But they both had verified those in previous meetings, so I think we're all comfortable with that. All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. The next item is another memorandum of understanding with the Board of Education. Again, this was brought forward by the board. Originally, they were requesting that this be added into their non-lapsing accounts, but I had discussed it with the superintendent, and I think in the past, when we had done this type of MOU, it always went into the general fund to be reallocated. So the superintendent was in agreement with that. The Board of Education revised the language to indicate that the funds will go into the general fund and not the non-lapsing, so that it can be put toward their operational budget as well. So you'll see in the resolution, essentially, the Board of Education has an amount in excess of what they are allowed to put into their capital improvements fund. When they do get tuitions, which in this case it is for the open choice program, those funds do go into their capital improvement fund in the way it was created. And so because they would be over that cap of $1.2 million, the money would essentially come back to the town anyway by ordinance, but this memorandum of understanding would allow that they would give that $400,000 excess back to the general fund, and then it will be used as consideration for the budget. Are there any questions? Who would like to read that motion into us? Counselor Nagel?
Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby authorizes James Krupinski, acting town manager, to execute a memorandum of understanding between the town of Newington and the Board of Education regarding realized surplus funds for the open choice students from the city of Hartford during the 2022-2023 school year. This MOU shall be relative to the FY 2023-2024 budget only. A copy of the fully executed MOU shall be attached to this resolution.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
I would just like to add that I very much appreciate the Board of Education and the Superintendent of Schools bringing forward these two proposals as ways that we can offset the cost to our residents, but still increase the minimum budget requirement for the Board of Education. So it allows their budget to increase in a way that is utilizing funds that are already in excess, that were already there. So this does help us not raise the mill rate by these amounts in order to accomplish increasing the budget for the Board of Education, their request. So I greatly appreciate the collaboration that I've had so far with the board. The Superintendent of Schools has been extremely cooperative and collaborative with me on working to get to a lot of these decisions, and was willing to amend this to say would go into the general fund instead of the non-lapsing, and that really does help. So greatly appreciate that. Any other questions from counselors? Okay. Oh, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Pacheco.
I just have one question, and you know, I'm in support of this, but it doesn't need to say the amount. I mean,
You don't use attached with it.
Underneath, yep.
okay, but you don't need to say within the body of it. Just says realized surplus funds. It doesn't need to be the amount.
Yeah, the previous motion did have the amount, I believe, right?
That was specific to an actual dollar amount. They have an estimated amount coming from the city of Hartford, which is the 1.24. So that was why the resolutions are both attached to, the MOUs are both attached to the resolutions for reference. But that specifically for the health benefits one, that is a prior year credit that still comes forward as a balance that they have in current year.
No.
This one is funding they haven't received yet.
Right, but this I mean, so it could be 200,000, it could be 400,000, it could be 800,000. We're basically, we're just saying.
Well, the
whatever they
MOU
get.
has a specific amount in it,
Yeah.
right?
It has a specific amount in it,
Okay.
correct.
But I know what you're saying in terms of the resolution. Counselors, are you comfortable with leaving that amount out as long as the MOU is attached, or do you
Yeah,
want
yeah,
us
yeah,
to
the
amend
MOU's
that?
attached, fine.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item this evening is adjustments to the tentative budget for fiscal year 2023, 2024. I know that we had some public hearings earlier, so what I would like to do at this point, counselors, is recess for 10 minutes. I know many of us at the table have brought forward motions for consideration, but we haven't had a chance to review them. So I would suggest that we recess for 10 to 15 minutes and that each party exchange whatever information they'd like the others to consider, and then we can come back and entertain those motions. Is everyone agreeable to that? All right, we will stand in recess at 7:21. I would want me back no later than 15 minutes if possible. And James, you're going to mute us.
Where are we gonna meet?
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right.
Memorex.
Welcome back, everyone. I apologize, our recess was a little longer than anticipated. We had much to discuss. So we are back in public session at 7:49 PM. The item that we are entering into on our agenda is adjustments to the tentative budget for fiscal year 2023, 2024. I will entertain any motions that folks would like to bring forward. Counselor Menke.
Yeah, I have a number of motions here, 22 actually. I just wanted, before I start, I want to thank Janet Murphy for her assistance in helping me fill out the correct form and going back and forth. I appreciate her efforts, and I would just want to thank her publicly. Our first adjustment would be 104718202 dues and subscriptions development director for $2,100. We would propose we cut that. That's because it hasn't been used in the past, and there's no sense funding something that's not being used. So we would move that we cut that amount.
Is there a second? Second by Counselor Donahue. Any further discussion or questions? All right. Counselor Annis, your hand is up to go next, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that you didn't have a question. I saw your hand go up early. Okay.
I'm down.
Nope, that's fine. All right, so if there's no questions, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I should do roll call on
I
these,
think-
shouldn't
I think we need
I
to do
I
roll call.
apologize,
Usually
folks.
you
That
do.
one passed unanimously, but we do usually do roll call on budget items, so I apologize for that.
Should.
Okay. Sorry, Susan.
That's okay. I was all set.
All right, go ahead.
Next
Counselor
is
Menke.
10232-8302 technical supplies foam firefighting. We proposed we cut that by $10,000. This is the foam that's in the fire trucks currently that's been banned or is harmful to the firefighters. We hear there is a grant, a possibility of a grant through the state. If not covered by the grant, we would propose at a separate meeting, we can't do it tonight, but at a separate meeting, we propose that this be on the agenda for use of ARPA funds to cover this $10,000.
Is there a second? Second. Second by Counselor Camillo. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Annis? Yes. Deputy Mayor Budrago?
Yes.
Counselor Camillo?
Yes.
Counselor Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Menke?
Yes.
Counselor Nagel?
Yes.
Counselor Page?
Yes.
Counselor Rada?
Yes.
Mayor Laguna?
Yes.
Our next adjustment is 10240-8220 contractual services fit test machine. I'm told this is a fire department's request. It's a machine that tests the masks that the firefighters use. We would propose that we cut $14,000 of that. And again, we would at a later date bring forward that this should come out of the ARPA funds for $14,000.
Second.
Second by Counselor Camillo. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to roll call vote.
Counselor Annis?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Budrago? Yes. Counselor Camillo?
Yes.
Counselor Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Menke?
Yes.
Counselor Nagel?
Yes.
Counselor Page?
Yes.
Counselor Rada?
Yes.
Mayor Laguna?
Yes. Motion passes 9-0.
Again, 11100058501 decreased transfer to
I think
non-cap.
you skipped
I
one
skipped
of
one.
them.
I
You skipped
did
one.
skip one. I knew it. New glasses too. Okay, so let's start again. 108318306 contractual maintenance pool paint. We're proposing we cut this by $25,000. Again, until the disposition of the pools are resolved, there's no sense of painting it anyway. But if we do need to paint it, if there's no need to paint it, we would propose this come out of the ARPA funds.
Second by Counselor Camillo. Any questions or discussion?
Just Mayor, as you heard us joke when we were just talking, Councilor Rada suggested that's the only thing that's keeping the pools. But we'll go with this.
I know at the last pool committee meeting, we had asked for a bunch of information from Bill DeMayo and the consultant. Have you gotten anything back? And I think we had also said that we would have our risk management folks take a look at the pools just to make sure, because it was mentioned that there were some issues there.
I actually had them come out to the pool sites today, actually.
Oh.
We should be getting a report from them next week. According to their review on it, we don't have any severe liability. We do have an issue with our fencing, but that's something we can address separately.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, but they weren't concerned with the pool.
Concerns with the pool, but we'll wait on the final report from them sometime next week.
Thank you for doing it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Keith had done that also.
Because I'm sure she
just
probably,
so.
Instrumental, she actually brought them to both locations.
okay, great,
Yep.
thank you. All right,
You-
so we have a
you-
motion, we have a second. Oh, go ahead.
Do you have that, since we're talking about that, do you have the report that Keith got also when he did it? Because there was no problems then also.
Well, let's,
The older one that, who was on site for that one?
It was two pool contractors came out.
I'd have to check the file on that one.
And they're,
They were looking at it. For us, they weren't looking at the structural as much as the liability side of it to
Mhm.
ensure the pools were safe for use.
Right.
But,
All right.
well, I'm on a roll. Now we'll do.
Oh, wait, we have to vote.
We need to vote.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? We'll do a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Yannis?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rodrigo? Yes. Counselor Camillo?
yes,
Counselor Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Menke?
Yes.
Counselor Nagel?
Yes.
Counselor Page?
Yes.
Counselor Rada?
Yes.
Mayor Del Rio?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, now I can move on. 111-000-8501, decrease the transfer to capital non-recurring town beautification projects by $25,000.
Is there a second? Go ahead and explain.
There's already $32,289 in the fund. That should be plenty to get us through this year with flowers and planters and that such. We talked to the chair of the committee and she said that would be plenty to get them through their plans for this year. So that money is important to be used, but it's not needed at this time.
Motion, we have a second. Any questions or comments?
second.
Counselor Camillo. All right, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Yannis?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rodrigo?
Yes.
Counselor Camillo?
Yes.
Counselor Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Menke?
Yes.
Counselor Nagel?
Yes.
Counselor Page?
Yes.
Counselor Rada? Yes. Mayor Del Rio?
Yes. Motion passes 9-0.
This will be increase the applied fund balance to $785,370. Part of that money is the $156,577 we just agreed on with the MOU from the Board of Ed, but we need a second. So
second,
Oh, second by Counselor Camillo. Thank you.
we're doing this for a couple of reasons. One, we're anticipating a higher tax collected because of the next year because of the development that's going in. So as the development gets built, it's worth more, we tax it more. And also anticipation of the motor vehicle assessment, which went up this year, which the state doesn't pay us till next year. So we feel comfortable with this amount.
Okay, and I'll just add a quick comment too. You'll notice down below under number 22, the increase to the Board of Education that we'll be recommending later on is equal to that amount. So just so folks understand, the request for the increased money out of the fund balance in addition to the MOU is all intended to be voted on later on for the Board of Education increase. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll go to roll call vote.
Counselor Yannis?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rodrigo? Counselor Camillo?
yes,
Counselor Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Menke?
Yes.
Counselor Nagel?
Yes.
Counselor Page?
Yes.
Counselor Rada? Yes. Mayor Del Rio?
Yes. Motion passes 9-0.
10151-6027, increased revenue for cannabis tax. We would recommend we increase this by 100,000.
Second by Counselor Camillo.
Again, this is on both of our adjustments, so it's we won't take credit for it. We won't take credit for it. It's really Janet that discovered this. So this is the tax that we get for having cannabis stores or shops or whatever they're called, dispensaries in our community, and so this money is paid by the state. So we think we're comfortable with $100,000. I think that should cover the year. Probably we're underestimating, but I think we're safe to use that number.
So Janet gets a credit for the cannabis? Man.
Not accredited cannabis, accredited for.
And just, we are aware that the cannabis funds that come back to the town have to be used for certain purposes, so they will be allocated within the budget under those items that are appropriate. All right, we have a motion, you seconded it, Counselor Camillo, correct? All right, any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Yannis?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rodrigo.
Yes.
Council Camillo.
Yes.
Council Donahue.
Yes.
Council Menke.
Yes.
Council Nagel.
Yes.
Council Page.
Yes.
Council Rada.
Yes.
Mayor Del Rey.
Yes. Passes 9-0.
104505301, increased revenue for building permits. We're proposing, or again, with Janet's guidance, to increase this by 300,000. Again, as, I mean, a second, I keep,
Oh,
I
second?
go right to the next explanation.
Seconded by Counselor Camillo.
I've been
Thank you.
practicing at home.
Go ahead.
So again, as development happens, the cost of building permits go up, so permits go up. So we're comfortable with this number. This would be collected in the next, in this fiscal year. So the 2023-24 fiscal year.
Any comment or question?
No, we agree with this.
All right. Roll call vote, please.
Council Ennis.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rodrigo.
Yes.
Council Camillo.
Yes.
Council Donahue.
Yes.
Council Menke.
Yes.
Council Nagel.
Yes.
Council Page.
Yes.
Council Rada.
Yes.
Mayor Del Rey.
Yes. Passes 9-0.
11008501, decrease transfer to capital non-recurring Eagle Park Playground. We're proposing we decrease this by 375,000. And again, we're
Is there a
proposing.
second?
Good.
Seconded by Counselor Camillo.
Just go right on. Just if I could second my own motion. it'd be easier. Anyway, we're proposing this be covered by ARPA funds. It's another good classic example of the use of ARPA funds. And it's a, we attended the opening of the playground at Beechwood Park, and it was a cool new park. And so I like the idea we're doing new parks around town, but I think we cover this through the ARPA funds.
So just to clarify, the purpose of tonight's meeting is just to cut it from the budget for now. The ARPA fund allocation would have to happen at a separate meeting for the ones that ARPA is mentioned for. It's a very separate item. Tonight's purpose is just for the budgetary, just to make it clear.
But it is our intent to bring these forward.
Yes. All right. I'm sorry. Second? Counselor Camillo, thank you. Okay, just making sure. Any other discussion on this one? I would just add, I agree, the initiative that the Parks and Rec Department has taken to make sure they're keeping up on parks, infrastructure wise, we're trying to make sure we're keeping up on things, and by doing at least one of our neighborhood parks a year, that is something we continue to support. So even though this is a reduction, we are still supporting this project in the future. All right, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Council Ennis.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rodrigo.
Yes.
Council Camillo.
Yes.
Council Donahue.
Yes.
Council Menke.
Yes.
Council Nagel.
Yes.
Council Page.
Just to clarify, Matt, before I vote, you said it's just because it's a reduction, but it's actually ARPA will be covering it.
Correct.
It
It just has to happen at a separate meeting.
So it's not, okay.
It's not part of the
Then-
budgetary
right,
process.
Just clarifying, yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Council Rada.
Yes.
Mayor Del Rey.
Yes. Motion passes 9-0.
11008501, decrease the transfer to capital non-reoccurring town hall canopies. We're proposing we reduce that by $100,000.
Second.
Second by Counselor Nagel.
Again, this is a 2-year plan to replace 2 canopies, one over the human services entrance, and then one over the exit from the gym. We're proposing we take this money out of ARPA funds. We're also, just as an aside, not part of this discussion, I guess, but as an aside, we're proposing we do both canopies at once instead of doing one canopy, then wait a year and do the next canopy. But what we're proposing right now, we take out the $100,000 out of the budget and cover it. We'll cover it later with ARPA funds.
All right, we have a motion. By Counselor Nagel. Any other discussion? All right, we'll do a roll call.
Council Ennis.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rodrigo. Council Camillo.
Yes.
Council Donahue.
Yes.
Council Menke.
Yes.
Council Nagel.
Yes.
Council Page.
Yes.
Council Rada.
Yes.
Mayor Del Rey.
Yes. Passes 9-0.
Next is 11008501, decrease the transfer to the 01501 I have.
Oh, I'm on the wrong one, sorry. I already marked it. Go ahead, go
Okay.
ahead.
Decrease transfer to capital non-recurring Garfield Street sidewalk crosswalks. We're proposing we reduce this by $200,000. Again, until the pool is decided where the pool is going to be, where the parking is going to be, and what the final disposition of the buses is going to be. We don't think there's any need to put $200,000 into a fund that's going to sit there until those decisions are made. So we're proposing we cut this.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Donahue. Any further discussion? Questions?
We just want to also mention there's already $250,000 in the account.
Thank you.
I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yep, valid point. So that if they did decide to start some of the project this year, there is nothing there to get them started. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? We'll do a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Hammond?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Draco?
Yes.
Counselor Camillo?
Yes.
Counselor Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Manky? Counselor Nagel?
Yes.
Counselor Page?
Yes.
Counselor Rada?
Yes.
Mayor Del Piano?
Yes. Passes 9-0.
Next is 11100850. He's transferred to public building fund, town buildings roof replacement and repair. We're proposing we cut $300,000 out of this fund. The appropriation for $300,000 and again cover it through ARPA money.
All right, is there a second? Seconded by Counselor Nagel. Any discussion or questions?
I would just say that we did speak with the facility director, and this would be enough to cover this year's anticipated roof repairs.
All right. Hearing no other comment or question, we'll go to roll call vote.
Counselor Hammond?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Draco? Yes. Counselor Camillo?
Yes.
Counselor Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Manky?
Yes.
Counselor Nagel?
Yes.
Counselor Page?
Yes.
Counselor Rada?
Yes.
Mayor Del Piano?
Yes. Passes 9-0.
Next, we have 11100850. Decreased transfer to capital non-recurring fire storage building on Chapman Street. We're proposing we cut $185,000 out of this fund. Second.
Oh, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Donahue.
As you recall, last year, when the budget came around, we put $185,000 in this fund. And I think the council is strongly recommending that we do not demolish the building. We save the building for historic value. But until we decide what we're gonna actually do with the building, when we save it, there's no sense putting more money into and having the money just sit there. We already have 185,000 in there that we can use if there's a immediate repair that's needed. But until we get a firm idea of what the building's gonna be used for, there's no sense remodeling something, then find out we're remodeling for the wrong purpose.
Mhm. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any other question or discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to roll call vote.
Counselor Hammond? Yes. Deputy Mayor Draco? Yes. Counselor Camillo?
Yes.
Counselor Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Manky?
Yes.
Counselor Nagel?
Yes.
Counselor Page?
Yes.
Counselor Rada?
Yes.
Mayor Del Piano?
Yes. Motion passes 9-0.
11100850. Decreased transfer to capital non-recurring Elm Hill Business District. We're proposing we cut this by $100,000.
Is there a second? Seconded by Counselor Nagel.
For this, our rationale is there's already $530,000 in this fund. That we are getting it. We just have hired a new tour. We're in the process of hiring a new town engineer. So until the engineer comes on board, this project won't even get started. And there's a lot of other projects we have that are in the process of getting started. So realistically, this project probably won't get done this year. It probably won't get done till this time next year. So there is enough money there to start the project if we need to start it, and there's probably enough money almost to finish it. But putting more money into a project that hasn't even started, we would oppose.
Yeah, I will just add, just one quick second. I will just add that in speaking with some of the folks involved with this project, the original allocation was meant to be around 500,000. So those involved were comfortable at this point with what's in the balance and not funding additional until they know if they need it or not. So, Counselor Page.
Thanks, Mayor. Is this money, are these monies in any way linked to state monies that have been intended for that project, beautification and so forth? Were
Not
they
the Elm Hill one,
State
right?
monies.
The state monies that we got were for the area over by
Hartford Ave and
Hartford Ave
Stoddard.
and Robbins were the two that I
Because
know
I
of.
thought, and maybe I'm wrong on this, I thought there were some state monies
I wanna say
available.
there was some state funding as part of the Elm Hill District.
I just didn't
piece
want us
as
to
well.
in any way compromise.
Is Janet on? Janet,
It's
Comment
New
on
Britain
that?
Avenue.
Right.
Yeah.
There was monies for New
Yep.
Britain Avenue.
I'm on, and this money is separate from anything to do with the grants. Any
Okay.
match or additional funds that you needed for that grant from the state is under your matching fund account.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't want to interrupt
No
that.
problem.
thanks, Janet.
Problem.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any other comment or question? Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Hammond?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Draco? Yes. Counselor Camillo?
Yes.
Counselor Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Manky?
Yes.
Counselor Nagel?
Yes.
Counselor Page?
Yes.
Counselor Rada,
Yes.
Mayor Del Pino.
Yes. Passes 9-0.
Next is 11-100-8501, decreased transfer to capital non-recurring comprehensive revision of town zoning regs. We propose we reduce this by $50,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Camillo.
Just a rationale, there was already $50,000 in this fund. And the review, again, to the town planner gets up to speed and is able to review what's already been done. $50,000 should cover what he's needed if anything's needed. So we propose to cut this by $50,000.
All right, any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, we'll go to roll call.
Counselor Annis,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Draco, Counselor Camillo, Counselor Donahue,
Yes.
Counselor Menke,
Yes.
Counselor Nagel,
Yes.
Counselor Page,
Yes.
Counselor Rada,
Yes.
Mayor Del Pino.
Yes. Passes 9-0.
Next is 11-100-8501, decreased transfer to capital non-recurring transit village design Cedar Street. We propose we cut this by $50,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Donahue.
Again, a few years ago, a pretty specific zoning overlay study was done for that area. And it's out there. And again, when the town planner, he just sort of got on board. So by the time he reviews that and we move forward, this will be into the next fiscal year anyway. So we propose, there's no sense leaving $50,000 someplace that's not going to get used immediately.
All right, any other comment or question? Hearing none, we'll go to roll call.
Counselor Annis,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Draco, Counselor Camillo,
Yes.
Counselor Donahue,
Yes.
Counselor Menke,
Yes.
Counselor Nagel,
Yes.
Counselor Page,
Yes.
Counselor Rada,
Yes.
Mayor Del Pino.
Yes. Passes 9-0.
Next is 11-100-501, decreased transfer to capital non-recurring synthetic turf replacement. We propose we would cut this by $600,000.
Is there a second? Second by Counselor Camillo.
Again, our rationale is there's already $205,000 in this account, which it doesn't even start to cover it. But we propose the $600,000 come out of the ARPA money, as this is a one-time project and it would qualify. Also, we could by doing it out of ARPA money, we could get to the project faster than if we waited until the fiscal year starts in July 1st. I was at a Parks and Rec meeting and there's a really pretty tight window to get this turf field done. Not so much weather-wise, but team-wise. So you can't displace the teams that are using it. So there's a really tight window. So this would actually, by doing this, would actually speed up the process a little bit.
Okay. Counselor Page?
Thanks, Mayor. Just to clarify for the public and which location we're discussing.
This is the
Plumbonier.
Plumbonier football field.
But it will be done. We're just gonna
Right.
propose.
It's way. As Kim and I sit on Parks and Rec board, the field is way past its lifetime.
Yes.
And they've been taking steps to actually sew it back together, like you would an old pair of jeans. But you can only sew so many patches on an old pair of jeans. So this is needed to be done. It's way past its lifetime, but we would say we should take it out of the ARPA funds.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? We'll go to roll call vote.
Counselor Annis,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Draco, Counselor Camillo,
Yes.
Counselor Donahue,
Yes.
Counselor Menke,
Yes.
Counselor Nagel,
Yes.
Counselor Page,
Yes.
Counselor Rada,
Yes.
Mayor Del Pino.
Yes. Passes 9-0.
Next is 12500-8501, decreased transfer to equipment reserve, police administration vehicles, 156 Ford Explorer.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Donahue.
So we propose we decrease this by $71,500. We are not cutting any police vehicles. We're proposing this come out of the ARPA funds. Again, it's a good use of the ARPA funds. And again, they could order them soon. They could order them as soon as we approve it, as opposed to waiting to the fiscal year. And the way the car prices rise, it might be cheaper to do it now than a couple months from now.
Okay. So you have a motion, we have a second. Any comment or question? Hearing none, we'll go to roll call.
Counselor Annis, yes. Deputy Mayor Draco, Counselor Camillo,
Yes.
Counselor Donahue,
Yes.
Counselor Menke,
Yes.
Counselor Nagel,
Yes.
Counselor Page,
Yes.
Counselor Rada,
Yes.
Mayor Del Pino.
Yes. Passes 9-0.
Next is 11-100-8501, decreased transfer to capital non-recurring school entrances security. we would increase this by 200,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Donahue.
Just before we get crazy, we're not proposing that we just wipe school security out. In our review of the budget, we found that the school has money in a OCR fund of $223,000. It's just sitting there. So we're proposing that the school close out that fund and move that money into this fund to pay for this project. We've spoken with both the finance director of the BOE and the superintendent, and this is doable. We can't do it today, but we will move that money into this fund so that we will still fund school security by this amount. But there's no sense having $230,000 sitting in a fund that's not being used. We would move it over. If that isn't possible, if for some reason they can't transfer the money, we would take the money out of ARPA funds to pay for this, which again is a legitimate securities instrument.
I'll just add, I do have it in an email from Mr. Giacomowitz, and the superintendent was copied on it as well, that the projects that were needed in order to file the final report to the state have been completed, with the exception, I believe, of a sink project in one of the rooms at the high school. The funds for that are already available through the capital improvement program on the Board of Education side. So they're already starting that work and getting that done. It'll be done very soon. So they've already started the final report to supply to the state so that we can take action to close out that committee and account, and would be able to then reallocate those funds. So those funds aren't available till we go through that process, but we will be able to go through that process, and that was verified by Mr. Giacomowitz and the superintendent. Counselor Page.
Thanks, Mayor. Just to explain OCR fund, what is that intended for? What is that?
It was
It's Office of Civil Rights.
rights.
Is what it stands for, and it was
Civil
meant
rights.
to make things more accessible and
ADA
code, up to code
ADA compliant
compliance.
code,
Yeah.
I did sit in that committee for a while, a couple terms ago, and it was work to fix doorways and that kind of thing. So that work has been done. This committee hasn't met in 4 years. So all the work has been done. It's just the money just sitting there, and there's no sense having taxpayers fund money that just sits in a pot. That
Right, so just as you
So we're
said.
just asking them to transfer the money over and use it. And actually, they net out $23,000.
Right, and as you've said, Councilor Mengy, that so people are clear, we're not reducing security by doing this. The security's been done, taken care of. Right.
Well, they still need the entryway money, but we will be transferring the OCR money into that account once that is closed out. So there is still some work to be done. So we are tonight reducing the budget by that amount, but we will be reallocating that fund once it is freed up from that OCR account. Yeah. Any other comment or questions? All right, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Annis? Yes. Deputy Mayor Draco?
Yes.
Counselor Camillo?
Yes.
Counselor Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Menke?
Yes.
Counselor Nagel?
Yes.
Counselor Page?
Yes.
Counselor Rada?
Yes.
Mayor Del Muno?
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Next is 11100, 8502, decrease transfer to public building fund, highway and parks garage by 459,000. We propose cutting 459,000.
Is there a second? Second by Counselor Nagel.
Highway garage is probably one of the least
Sexy.
sexy, the least sexy proposal we do, because who sees the highway garage? Probably half the town doesn't even know where the highway garage is. But it's important, because if the highway garage goes down, then the trucks don't get fixed. The trucks don't get fixed. We don't get the plows out. We don't get the leaves picked up. We don't get our lawns. There's a host of problems for that. We don't get our vehicle serviced. So this is important. I don't think we're going to get a ton of people out here to support the highway garage. But I think it's something we need to be aware of, that the highway garage needs to get replaced. This 459,000 we're proposing taking out of the ARPA money. It would let them start the process of the architectural drawings, the site study, the location study, and the needs assessment. It is a big build down the road. We're not going to get people to come out like they would for schools or parks or pools or libraries, but it is something that needs to get done. So I think it's something that we need to be aware of. And we're never going to get a whole lot of people to say that we need a new garage, because it's the last thing that people want to spend money on, but it's important.
All right. Any other discussion? We'll go to roll call.
Counselor Hannah.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Budrago.
Yes.
Counselor Camillo.
Yes.
Counselor Donahue.
Yes.
Counselor Mankey.
Yes.
Counselor Nagel.
Yes.
Counselor Page.
Yes.
Counselor Renner. Mayor Del Vino.
Yes. Passes 9-0.
The next one would be decrease, I'm sorry, 111008501, decrease transfer to capital non-recurring school bus replacement. We're proposing we cut that by $488,725.
Is there a second? Second by Counselor Donahue.
Again, just for, there's already money in this fund. There's about $1 million in this fund already. It's enough to pay for this, for what they're proposing buying this year buses, and that's about $319,000 they're paying for this year's buses. This would be enough to pay, there's enough in the fund to pay for next year's buses. By cutting this, though, we're proposing we move this money would be moved into the next one, which is increase the Board of Ed operating budget. So we're taking the money that we would sort of store, if you will, in one fund and using it toward directly benefits the pupils and the students and the teachers and the staff. So we did run this by superintendent, and she was okay with this. That would make sense.
Yeah, I will just add on, I did talk with the superintendent on a number of occasions. She was even kind enough to meet with me in person. We went through several different scenarios to try and make sure we were getting to the level of funding that was kind of the bare minimum for them to make sure that they could avoid layoffs and make sure that they could continue with the programs that they have, and make sure that we were being fiscally responsible on our side, but they were also going to be satisfied with the outcome on their side. And so on the next item, I'll talk a little bit more about some of the breakdowns of that and what the Board of Ed is also going to do to help make things better. But in terms of this adjustment, we are not proposing that they don't buy buses, just to be clear, and the superintendent understands that, and it is included in the memo that she sent back to me. So they know that that fund balance is available for them to still be able to purchase their buses out of this fiscal year as well as next fiscal year. There is enough money in that account, and this would, as Counselor Mankey said, help with their operating budget then. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions or comments? All right, we'll do a roll call.
Counselor Hannah.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Budrago. Yes. Counselor Camillo.
Yes.
Counselor Donahue.
Yes.
Counselor Mankey.
Yes.
Counselor Nagel.
Yes.
Counselor Page.
Yes.
Counselor Renner.
Yes.
Mayor Del Vino.
Yes. Motion passes 9-0.
And then we have 140008601, increase to the Board of Ed appropriation, $785,370.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second.
Just for explanation, this money comes from three items. 156,577 is what we just agreed on probably an hour ago now on the MOU from the surplus. 488,725 is the buses we're taking out of the CIP, but moving it over here. So we're still funding the board, but instead of funding things, we're funding students. And then we would increase it by $140,068 from the general fund. This would give the Board of Ed an appropriation of $82,199,830, or an increase of 4.5%.
We have a motion, we have a second. So just glancing through the document from the superintendent to make sure we covered everything. We talked about the CIP, bus allocation, that they will, and we did have it in writing between she and I, just that we both understand that they will be using the bus garage account to still fund their buses. The memorandum of understanding that we passed earlier, the 156,577, an additional appropriation of $140,068 from the general fund would increase to 4.5%. The remaining gap that the Board of Education feels that they would still need would be is $729,438, which they have in their non-lapsing account. So they will be taking that additional money out of the non-lapsing account to close the gap, so that we will be able to address their needs and not have staff layoffs, and be able to provide an increase to the Board of Education budget of a 4.5%. Any comments or questions? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Counselor Hannah.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Budrago.
Yes.
Counselor Camillo.
Yes.
Counselor Donahue.
Yes.
Counselor Mankey.
Yes.
Counselor Nagel?
Yes.
Counselor Page?
Yes.
Counselor Rata?
Yes.
Mayor Dillinger?
Yes. Motion passes 9-0. Does that conclude your?
Yes.
Who's going next? Counselor Annis, you did have your hand up. Is that still?
Yes, please.
All right. go right
Thank
ahead.
you. Thank you. I do have a couple of increases that I'd like to propose to the council. It's going to be account 10270-8220, emergency medical services. I would like to increase it by $10,000, which is other contractual.
Second.
Second by Counselor Camillo.
Thank you. What this would do is would increase the contribution that the town is making to the CMed. There was a previous agreement that the town would pay their pro rata share of the CMed bill. And as it stands now, AMR probably covers 2/3 of that pro rata share, and NEMS is 1/3, and the bill is approximately $30,000. So that's why we're proposing an increase of $10,000. There's already $10,000 in our budget. So that would increase it to $20,000.
So NEMS would still be paying 10,000. The town would be picking up the AMR portion essentially.
Correct.
Okay.
But the whole budget is 30,000?
The whole CMed bill is 30,000. The town budget would be 20,000.
Oh, all right.
There is increasing in 10,000.
So but there's already 10 in the budget. So we're increasing it by 10.
So
Yep.
you know, right now, the current one is 95 cents per capita. So per resident, we have to pay 95 cents to CMed.
Counselor Menke?
Just to educate myself and probably anybody who's listening, CMed is what again?
It's the dispatch, the emergency medical dispatch.
It's central.
Central, yeah.
So this is
Emergency medical services.
As I recall, this
dispatch.
is, so if an ambulance picks up somebody, they call into this place and they say, don't go to this hospital because we're full, go to this hospital or go here or?
It's the actual dispatch.
Okay, so they dispatch, okay, so they tell you where to go, okay.
And
It's similar to.
it's paid to the state of Connecticut.
CCHD or CCHD, whatever, is it per capita?
Yeah. Said, yep, Yep.
Whether it's used or not, but it's just.
correct, exactly. It's a flat fee that we get billed from the state.
Any other questions, counselors? All right, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Hess?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Budrako?
Yes.
Counselor Camillo?
Yes.
Counselor Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Menke?
Yes.
Counselor Nagel?
Yes.
Counselor Page?
Yes.
Counselor Rata?
Yes.
Mayor Dillinger?
Yes. Motion passes 9-0.
Thank you. I have one more. 10270-8110 EMS emergency medical services, fringe benefits. I would like to increase that by $30,000. Currently,
Hold on one second, is there a second? Second by Counselor Camillo, go ahead,
See, I
Counselor
did the
Ennis.
same thing, I went too fast.
currently, our volunteers get a stipend of $1,000, and the fire department in our budget stipend has now gone up to $2,000. There are still volunteers for the emergency medical service, and their stipend should be equal to each other. Our volunteers respond to a lot of calls. They have to give up their home life by staying at the facility, at the house. They have to, their shift, they have to stay there.
Mhm.
So I am proposing to increase them to make them level with the volunteer fire department.
Okay.
Is this, like per year? I mean, how does this work?
It's a year. Just like the fire department gets their stipend every year.
Once somebody serves 12 months.
Right, but they have to make a certain amount of calls. They have to earn their points just like the fire department. So not every member might not get their stipend.
Oh,
They have to fulfill. If you look at the budget, like what was budgeted for last year, it wasn't even all used because not every member meets their points, and we're not full, we're not fully staffed either. So this would help encourage our volunteers to stay on as EMTs in Newington and not go to surrounding volunteer towns. Yes.
And
Counselor Page?
thank you. The dollar amount is 30,000?
Yeah, we'd like to increase it by 30,000 because right now in the budget is $1,000 per member.
And as you pointed out, it sounds like we may not even use all that, but it's there
Correct, it
as an
depends.
incentive.
Exactly, but you need to put in there to fund it fully just in case.
Comments or questions?
Yep. One other
Counselor Rata?
question, just a point.
Mhm.
How many, what's the staff number for EMS here in town?
I think I don't know the exact number right now. I think there's 42 members right now. or 52. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah.
But the 30,000 would get us to to what we need.
Would be equity.
I mean, we do save the town money by not paying AMR.
Right.
So this is a way to kind of thank them for what they do.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move to roll call vote.
Yes.
Counselor Camillo.
Yes.
Counselor Donahue.
Yes.
Counselor Menke.
Yes.
Counselor Gable.
Yes.
Counselor Cruz.
Yes.
Counselor Rada.
Yes.
Mayor Del Risso.
Yes. Motion passes 9-0.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Page?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Just go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to say a couple words before I go with our items. You know, it seems like Councilor Rada and I have lost our fight in our effort to convince the council to move forward with the pool. And I know, not to get into it tonight, there's argument about apparently location in the engineering report, and there's hand wringing over parking, which I believe we can solve. And I feel that's, I mean, well, that's a reality, regardless of how everybody feels about it. That's our reality. My concern is that while on the one hand, I'm fully supportive of everything I just voted for because we're reducing the mill rate for all of our residents, and that's a good thing. I'm also concerned that longer term, we're once again, and we're good at this, relegating all of us to year-over-year increases in costs for construction and labor. And again, I've said it before, I'll say it again, in the reports I've read, the estimate is at around $500,000 year-over-year increase. And so while we can get a report, and that's a good thing, that from the engineers that the pool is safe for now, my concern is that we're going to continue to increase these costs. And while we save now, we're going to be paying a lot more down the road. And that just doesn't make sense to me. Having said that, the first item is 111008502, a proposal to increase transfer from the general fund to the public building fund for the pool of $1.3 million. And I would ask for a second.
Second.
Or the mayor. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Mayor.
seconded by Counselor Rada.
Sorry. And just as I've said before, and Councilor Rada can speak for herself, we believe that it's long overdue, as we've had Councilor Mankey and others have mentioned with the town garage. Our town garage is long overdue. I believe somebody said it's 40 years. And that's an important structure. And equally, if not more important, is what our families and kids and all play in with our pools going forward. And for all the reasons we've stated, it is long overdue. And by allocating this money, I believe we're making a statement, we're making a commitment. The town is saying that we take this seriously, and that ideally we would also at a later date, as we had suggested in our previous proposal in the previous meeting, using ARPA monies, which now we can't use the 4 million because we're allocating money in the short term to offset costs, and then seek matching funds from the state to really, as close as possible, make it net neutral for our residents. And again, save us money down the road. And by the way, have a wonderful pool and splash pad for everyone to enjoy. So that's on the table.
All right. Other council comment or question? Counselor Mankey? Oh.
Yeah, I would just, again, the pool hasn't come before this council since 2021, I believe, in August. And at that point, we sent it back. I had some concerns and questions. I sent it back for review, and it's come back up again. So I'm just looking ahead to your next one. You're allocating the money and then putting it into the pool fund. I'd be hesitant to put money into a pool fund. We don't have any particular plan as yet. And more than likely, when we do get to having a plan, it's going to have to go out to referendum and have to have more money than the 1.3 million anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little hesitant to take money out of the general fund to have it sit there waiting for something to happen, because that means the taxpayers are going to have to fund that money while it just sits there. And I don't see any sense of that. I don't see the need for that. Again, I am not shooting down a pool. I like pools as much as the next guy. But it hasn't come before this council. I haven't seen the final proposal. I haven't been able to ask questions of the location. I have concerns about location and parking and those concerns, that I think are legitimate concerns until I wrap my head around those issues. I don't see putting money into that, so.
All right, Counselor Donahue, did you have your hand up?
I can change my mind.
Okay. I would just go on the record as saying, it's not that we have, that you've lost interest in funding a pool. I am still interested in making sure that the pool project happens. I agree that I don't see taking it out of the general fund and having money sit there when we don't have an actual plan. I know the pool committee met. Counselor Donahue, you said you have not gotten back any.
I'm waiting for information from the engineer and I'm waiting for some answers from Mr. DeMail.
Okay.
We'll probably have a meeting next week or early in the following week, depending on how it works out.
Okay. What's the 1.3? What's the rationale for that amount?
The rationale was, by my math, that if we had the 4 million from ARPA and the 1.3 from this domain, that we could then seek matching funds and bring us as close to the 10.6 for the proposal. But that was a rough number in the report that I had. So it was as close to net neutral as possible.
Okay, got it. So we don't have the 4 million for the ARPA at this point.
Well, we don't now.
Well, we all voted
We
on
did.
that, though. We all voted on that.
We
so.
did all vote on that
Yeah.
because, as I said, yes, I'm not going to sit here and say, let's not lower the mill rate. And we proposed the pool 2 weeks ago and you abstained. You didn't say, no, I get it. But we also know what a pocket veto is. And by sitting on your hands, we once again don't do it. So I'm not going to say not no to a lower mill rate while we don't do the pool. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. The other issue I have with it too is that in order for the pool to move forward, if it's more than a $2 million project, we would still have to garner public support and go through referendum. There's quite a process that would have to happen, which may or may not be able to be completed before the end of the next fiscal year. And if there were a need to obtain funding, there's always an avenue to do that in terms of either a special appropriation or whatever method we saw fit if it had to happen before the end of the next fiscal year. But given the fact that we would need to do a referendum if it's over that 2 million to, I think it is around, it's 1.5% of the budget that would be approved later this evening. So I think to set aside that kind of money and have it sit there without knowing what that cost is and what the public support would be for the project is something that I wouldn't necessarily support at this point. Counselor Innes.
Thank you. I was going to ask the question regarding the referendum because I know it does take a while. I am totally in favor. We do need a new pool. I served on the building committee. But I'm just concerned, as everybody else, that 1.3 million is just going to be sitting there and on the taxpayers' dime. So if we had a better timeline of when, the architectural plans, when a location is approved by the building committee, by us, and when it's going to go to referendum, this money might not be there till next year. And I know there is another round of ARPA money coming out. I believe there should be another round.
I haven't heard anything on that.
I'm pretty
Janet might know. She's
Yeah.
always.
Janet, have you heard that?
I haven't heard anything about that yet.
Okay, because I heard last night that there was going to be another round
Oh,
coming out. So if there is, that might be another avenue to be able to do that.
There was a round of funding coming out for senior centers that we just got awarded.
No, it was, I know part of it's for technology too. That's coming
Yeah.
out, more technology. So if it is true, then I would rather wait and let the town vote on it. And let's like really have a plan before we just haphazardly put money aside for it. But I am totally in favor. We do need a pool, and Parks and Rec knows that. I'm like one of their allies, but at this point with the 1.3 and what it's going to do to the mill rate, I think we should wait.
Deputy Mayor Bedrejko?
Yeah, I just, again, just want to echo, no one lost a battle for advancing the pool. I think everybody here, I don't think I've heard one person here say that a pool is not needed. So I think characterizing that is really not totally representative of how we feel about getting a pool. But as others have said, there are reasons for maybe not acting on this suggestion for the 1.3 million, but also regarding the use of ARPA funds. I mean, when I was looking and doing the ARPA funds, actually, I wasn't thinking of, how are we going to lower the mill rate, how are we gonna lower the mill rate? That wasn't at least my driving force about how to utilize the ARPA funds, because the ARPA funds, we've got to we can't be relying, we have to realize that these are a one-time infusion of funds. And in my estimation, this one-time infusion of funds and the limitations put on the funds should be used to address the multiple areas, multiple constituencies, and multiple departments to help everybody in town support their work and their needs. I don't feel it's right to allocate a majority of fund to one project when we have so many needs, you know, in terms of critical infrastructure and projects that have been sitting on the back burner. And I think from what we voted on in using the ARPA funds, we were able to address so many needs, public health and safety. We did something for the fire department. We did something for the police department, municipal improvements. We did something for, you know, the Eagle Park, the turf field, the town hall canopies. We did some critical infrastructure funding, roof replacements, highway garages. So we were able to use this pot of money, this one-time infusion pot of money. We're able to spread it out and address a lot of critical needs in town. So, you know, I don't see it, I wasn't looking at it as, let's just get the mill rate down. I looked at it as there's an awful lot of needs in departments that could use that money, and to allocate it to one project, I just didn't think was a proper use.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bedrejko. Any other comment or question? All right, so we have it's been a while. The motion on the table is to increase the amount from the general fund by 1.3 million. We'll go to a roll call vote.
Counselor Ennis?
No.
Deputy Mayor Bedrejko?
No.
Counselor Camillo?
No.
Counselor Donahue?
No.
Counselor Mankey?
No.
Counselor Nagel?
No.
Counselor Page?
Yes.
Counselor Rada?
Yes.
Mayor Del Buono?
No. Motion fails 7-2. Go ahead, Counselor Page.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Item 101208101, decrease salary amount for assistant town manager position by $80,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Rada.
The idea, as I've said a couple of weeks ago when we met, was that our new town manager, whoever that may be, when they come on board, will need at least several months to familiarize themselves with the vast network of programs and activities and staff and plans happening here in town, and before they know what their needs are in terms of an assistant town manager. And then once they get settled for a bit, then they can turn their attention to that hiring situation. So we may not need the full 160 for the fiscal year. So we would propose cutting that in half, and then if necessary, if it was urgent, we could revisit it down the road. But at least for now, that would save us 80 grand.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any other council comment or question? I would just say that when you brought this up at the last meeting, I know I abstained from voting just because I needed some time to kind of process the request and see how it fit into some of the other requests that we were putting forward in the bigger picture of things. And even as of last night, I kind of figured you'd bring this back. And I was still on the fence about it, trying to consider the timeline with when the new town manager will come on and whatnot. But hearing your explanation and having talked a little more about it, I would go ahead and I'm in support of this. I think this makes sense. Any other comment or question? All right, we'll go to roll call vote, please.
Counselor Ennis?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bedrejko?
Yes.
Counselor Camillo?
Yes.
Counselor Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Mankey?
Yes.
Counselor Nagel?
Yes.
Counselor Page?
Yes.
Counselor Rada?
Yes.
Mayor Del Buono?
Yes. Motion passes 9-0.
Okay, thank you. Next item is 103528220, increase for bulky waste pickup for $290,000. And I don't know.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Seconded by Counselor Rada. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Mayor, because you know what I was going to ask, because we talked about this. And I would welcome, if you don't mind, Janet chiming in on this. Janet, again, thank you very much for everything you've done to help Counselor Rada, and I understand this process and your back and forth with us. You had also spoken to the staff responsible for managing this in the past and what this might look like. We're open to a discussion with your assistance, Janet, and the input obviously from the council on having a modification that may be necessary for even a quarterly bulky waste pickup. I think when we spoke, I believe, Janet, fill me in on the details or correct me, this 290 is for a more robust bulky waste pickup that we once had, correct?
Yes, this would be similar to what we once had. The only difference would be that this would be managed by the contractor and not in-house. Since if you recall, the highway assistant was originally the one who was in charge of this and took care of it. And there was about 165 stops they make during a year. We eliminated that position when Tom Malloy left and Rob Hillman got promoted. So there's nobody there in-house to actually manage his program anymore. So it does include in that 290, 50,000 for a contractor to manage it. And these are just estimates that Rob was able to give me the other day.
Do you know, Janet, and I know I'm springing this on you, so if you can't answer, I understand. If we were to move to, say, a quarterly pickup once a season, do you have any idea what a fair and realistic decrease in that 290 would look like?
I couldn't be sure. I'd have to run that by Rob. I couldn't tell you for certain because, I mean, if we just turned it to quarterly, would people just hold everything instead of spreading it out and do it at once? And it could still be the same amount. The only thing that might go down is the management of it by the contractor.
Right. And my other point I'd make is that we've heard from some folks that for many of our residents, this individual cost per pickup, I believe it's $25, is
Depends on what you.
it depends on what,
Picked up,
right, it can be a burden. And one of the benefits, like so many of the other excellent services that we're blessed to have in Newington of spreading this around the town is that everyone benefits from this. And yes, I know the mayor's pointed out, and I believe you, that on occasion there is an abuse there may be an abuse of people bringing in things either from other locations or whatnot, or doing it with such a frequency that it's unreasonable. I would invite us to consider a couple of things on that point, which is, is there a way to police that more effectively so that we nip that in the bud? And then the other is that while there may be, and I don't know the percentage or the numbers, abuses, I think we could agree that the vast benefit to the 30,000 folks in town outweighs those abuses, which hopefully we could correct for it. And I think that's my pitch, and I would ask for your consideration.
All right, Counselor Menke.
It's a couple things. One, I've used the service and it is pretty seamless. So you just call up and next Thursday you show up and pick up I put out a couch or something. So it's pretty seamless. I appreciate that. I think originally we cut this from the budget because I think if you look at over the space of the town, Janet, you said there's 165 pickups a year.
Rob Hillman did say that there was in the past when they were doing this approximately 165 pickups, and that currently they're down to, on average, I should say, there were 165 stops per week, and now on average they're down to 45
per week.
Per week, yes.
Okay, so I guess the original we cut it, and I kind of like that you're cutting it because I've used this service in my career at my current location, 30 plus years, 3 times. So I don't use it that often, but if it's in the tax structure, I'm paying for other people to use it. And so I think I kind of like the idea that you use it, you pay for it. I used to think they picked this stuff up for nothing and it got disposed of for nothing, but the town has to pay to have it disposed of, especially in the case of a mattress. I didn't realize
It's expensive.
how labor intensive it is to get rid of a mattress. You have to cut it apart. The wood goes here, the metal goes here, the bedding goes here, and it's really labor intensive. And so I guess I can see where I guess I would be in favor of a one time, maybe a spring and fall pickup, but without the numbers, I'm not sure I can vote on it tonight. But I'm thinking that might be something I might support. I know other towns do that. This weekend is bulky waste pickup. Everybody throws it out, puts it on the lawn, and we probably drive by and pick each other's stuff up because I can use that table or I can use that couch. But without knowing the full number, I wouldn't want to go back to where I'm paying for someone else's pickup and somebody else may use it more than I do. I personally don't use it very often, so I wouldn't want to pay for somebody else to be using it as a taxpayer. I mean, as an individual, I doesn't, but as a taxpayer.
All right, Counselor Annis?
Thank you. I know we had a discussion before that everybody gets like 1 or 2 free pickups a year rather than, everybody paying or doing just a free for all for everybody. So that would be another consideration. But unfortunately, without having the numbers, it's going to be very difficult to try to adjust the budget or to make any informed decision regarding that. I wish you had a couple of different scenarios of what that would have been quarterly, biannually, or every resident, where you can get 2 free pickups a year. I know people don't, it's always the same people that are putting stuff out. I've never, ever used it, and I've been in town. I've had my house for 30 years. I don't mind paying for a couple of pickups for people, but I just don't every week, the same people put stuff out. So unfortunately, if we can get some other numbers, but we need them for tonight.
Counselor Camilla?
New Britain has a scale and you get weighed and you have to pay by the pound when you want to dispose of something. And it's right on Christian Lane. When we had it as a free pickup, people that didn't want to pay in New Britain made it right over the line and dropped it on someone's front lawn. And it happened a lot, or in a lot, or the back of a parking lot of one of our businesses. So that would definitely hurt. Or we could look into having our own scale and charging. And that would definitely help with taking care of our, it's not even a landfill anymore, but taking care of that.
Okay. Counselor Raddick?
Yeah, just one example that I'll give, and I've mentioned this to a few people. I lived in Willimantic for many, many years, and we had bulky waste pickup, but it was twice a year. It was the spring and it was in the fall. And Eastern Connecticut State University is also in Willimantic. So, it actually helped the university, not that we have to think about that. And there wasn't as much abuse as we would think there might be, especially if it's only quarterly or if it's only, as Councilor Annis was saying, biannually. I always thought, when I moved back to Newington, that having it as frequently as we did was number one overkill, and I just couldn't believe that the town was supporting this. It was like paradise after. It's like, oh, I have to stockpile all of this until April or May. But yeah, definitely the consideration, and we've heard from folks, for example, folks who live at some of the condo or apartment complexes where yes, they pay into their fees, but they also pay taxes in our town, but they're not able to take advantage of some of these resources, for example, the bulky waste pickup. And the concern that they have that, like people coming into Newington, people coming into the complexes and dumping in the dumpsters and dumping alongside the dumpsters, which, can become a public health hazard as well as just a huge mess that they then have to foot the bill to pick up.
Deputy Mayor Bedrejko.
Yeah, I'm really torn on this one, but I do know that in instances in other towns, other communities, where they don't even offer this type of service, if you're buying a new refrigerator or a new mattress or a new piece of furniture, and you have to pay the delivery person, you have to pay a disposal fee for them to carry it out. It's a heck of a lot more than $25. So from a cost perspective, I don't think we are overcharging for the residents for this type of service. When if they use the private sector, they would be charged an awful lot more. So I'm not, ready to vote in favor of this tonight. It's something we can look at, but I also think, as I think Councilor Menke said and Councilor Annis, it's sometimes people, I don't agree with a user fee for all the services, whatever. But I do think something like this has to have some type of limits on it.
Councilor Nagel?
I would concur that this would more than likely lead to abuse by people in terms of putting things out. One of the reasons why there was a change to have a fee and have it done differently than what it was done in the past is because it was getting to be way out of hand. The town, in terms of things that were put out consistently, yeah, so much so that the town was going out and picking up stuff that was not called in to be picked up. And it became, well, it was thought, well, this will be a flat line thing, that it will not cost the town a great deal more to do it. It won't save the town. It became increasingly a burden on the town itself. And while in theory, it's a good idea, in reality, unfortunately, people, as Councilor Camillo pointed out, will take advantage of it, even those from out of town. I don't see a specific program that in my mind would work to make me support it at this particular time, because of the details and because of what I've previously mentioned.
Councilor Rather?
Yes, the question, I think, for James. Maybe it's just my perception, but it appears that fewer items or fewer types of items are being received at the transfer station, at the dump, than there was in the past, because I know I went to, I don't know, I had something that I was bringing there and was told, oh, no, we don't take those anymore. You can't deposit it here. You know why? Can you speak to that? Because I think it seems to me that except for leaves and twigs and whatever on that side, that it's become a little more restrictive in terms of what residents can bring to the dump.
So when we finished the closeout of the transfer station itself, that's now a vegetation site only. That was the main reason that we transferred over to the bulk program, which that went into effect, I believe, July of 2021. Actually have that sheet that I hand out to everybody when they come in for a permit to drop off the items that are specific to the new bulk pickup program. That's one of the main reasons you won't see, the electronic pickup, the paint, the drop off, all of those, because of the closeout for that site. And that's why the hazardous collection that takes place twice a year, which actually is coming up right now. I have to take a look on when that is. We'll put a news blast on the website. I know that's in their flyer they put out every year. So to sort of, and run around to that question was, it's just because we did the full closeout on that. The state we did a capping on that, everything. So now it's sealed off. We've talked about it, utilizing it as a parking lot, things of that type, storage. But yeah, the additional items going to the site aren't allowed anymore. And that did get recorded on the land record as well. Mr. Hillman had worked with the state to finish that project.
Okay.
Councilor Donahue?
Yeah, I mean, you can still go to the transfer station with electronics. They have a.
Do they still have the site there?
They have a trailer for that. They have a trailer.
I wasn't sure if they still
for
had that.
mattresses. They have, you can drop off an appliance or a refrigerated appliance. Your old propane tanks. I mean, they take a lot of stuff. Raw sheet metal, like a file cabinet, but they won't take car parts, right? Because
We just gotta look at that flyer.
Yeah.
right. It's you can't do it. And I mean, I've taken mattresses from my neighbor's house and thrown them on my trailer and just gone down there.
Yeah.
And then you can stand by and watch John try to manhandle them by himself. But
So you do it for fun.
I help him out all the time. Me and Guy were down there one day for an hour, helping him move stuff. But if they do have, the electronics trailer is sponsored by Green Monster over in West Hartford. And the mattresses, there's a state something for mattresses.
Yeah.
Because you get charged for a mattress when you buy it. So they do still take a lot of stuff. It's just the regular, you can't bring down bags of trash. They take corrugated cardboard, but you got to get there early because the dumpsters get full within 3 hours. So they just don't take regular raw trash.
Right.
But use motor oil, any kind of oil, cooking oil, transmission fluid. They take all that, batteries. So I don't spend a lot of time there.
No, it doesn't sound like it at all.
Councilor Anist?
Thank you. Is there a number that you would agree on if you wanted to reduce it to biannually?
Well, that's why I was asking for, and I agree, it's a little late in the game. I was looking for some guidance on that, and I don't know that it would be a direct proportion in terms of a ratio. But, if we could allocate I don't know, 150,000 tonight. And then if it doesn't seem like it's doable, then we don't do it. If, for the reasons that we can discuss further, for some of the reasons brought up tonight, and based on the folks, the town side who manage this and have the experience. But to Council Rada's point, if we could consider either fall in the spring or 4 times a year, as long as there are not abuses as a pilot, that would be a consideration.
Any other council comment or question? All right, we have the proposal on the table right now. The motion on the table is for increased bulky waste pickup for 290,000. We have a second by Council Rada,
Yeah.
so we can go ahead to the roll call vote.
Is it possible to modify based on that discussion, to modify that motion?
You can have your motion.
So I'd like to amend it to 150,000.
And would you amend your second?
I amend my second.
With the understanding that if it isn't viable for reasons that Rob or Janet or others bring forth, then we don't do it. But if it seems like it's a pilot that we could run to reintroduce it, say for a year, then we go from there. So.
Okay. We have a motion for increase bulky waste pickup by $150,000. And there is a second. Councilor Mankey?
Yeah, Janet, could you tell me what the budget implications of $150,000 increase?
Sure.
Thank you.
You guys throwing these curveballs at me tonight. Come on.
Sorry.
That's on me.
You should have your computer up and running.
That's why I'm upstairs. The change in the mill rate would be 0.06 mils.
Total be.
The total would be with that change.
Mhm.
Your total mill rate would now be 38.42. And that's reflecting all the changes you've already approved along with that one.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
What was it before the change?
It'll be 38, 36.
39,
38.4.
39.77.
Well, I'm just adding the 0.06, so it looks like it would be 38.
0.40.
It would be 38.36.
Didn't take into account the 80.
Right.
It's 0.06 mils increase for that one.
So the new, if we stood with this, the mill rate would be 38.36.
Nope, if you approved it, it'd be 38.42.
That's what I wrote down.
Okay, and if it was not approved, what would be? Considering the-
38.36.
Okay, and that's with the 80,000 reduction
Yep,
for assistant
that's
town
with
man. Okay,
everything, that's with everything you've already approved this evening.
thank you.
Yeah, I guess I'm torn with this one. It doesn't move the mill rate a lot, but I'm leery of taxing people for something I don't know what the result is. If I knew that I could do if this would give me a one-time pickup, you know, in the fall or the spring or whatever, or 2 times pickup, I guess I could support it better. And I don't know from this. And I appreciate the attempt to compromise, but I don't know if this covers what it covers. And so I'm a little leery of having the taxpayers pay for something we don't at this point know what it covers. If there was a proposal, I knew that this would cover, you know, twice a year pickup, 4 times a year pickup, or pick up, you know, in the winter and not in the summer, I guess I could support it better. But I guess I'm a little torn with this one.
Okay, I have one more question.
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Counselor.
So the 290, what was that?
That was going back to what we had.
To any Thursday? Okay.
Any other comment or question? All right, we'll go to roll call vote, please.
Counselor Ennis?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Draco? No. Counselor Camillo?
No.
Counselor Donahue? Counselor Mackey?
No.
Counselor Nagel?
No.
Counselor Cade?
Yes.
Counselor Rata?
Yes.
Mayor Del Biono?
No. Motion fails 6-3.
And then the other two we have, Mayor, we've already discussed under Counselor Mankey's presentation in our votes, which was
Right,
the
those are the ones that Janet Murphy brought forward for us to consider.
Which we'll take credit for.
Oh, Janet gets credit. for
Janet
that.
definitely gets credit for those. All right. All right, so are there any other motions that anyone would like to bring forward? All right, so Janet, you get to do your magic now. The next item this evening is the adoption of the operating budget for fiscal year 2023-2024. Janet's gonna do her magic calculations and we will be looking to adopt based on the changes that were made this evening.
I'll be down in 2 seconds with it.
All right, thank you. Yes, we're just gonna hold. Janet's gonna bring the resolution down for us.
Hoping she'd email it to me. Not gonna happen.
Can you mute the mic so we can hear everyone waiting? Thank you.
James, thanks once again for your computer help.
Oh, no problem.
Have to wait for the pad to actually start to react.
Still green. Manually mute. Date. All right, for the members of the public, just wanted to let you know, we are just waiting for the finalized numbers from the finance director that will reflect the changes that were made this evening so that we can take action on adopting the operating budget and the capital improvements plan, as well as setting the mill rate. So the next 3 items on the agenda, we're just waiting for those finalized numbers and motions to come forward. So we will be muted for a few moments until we can get those numbers finalized.
Okay. Share is up.
Okay. All right, we are back out of recess, back in public session. We have our finalized numbers based on the changes that were made this evening to the proposed fiscal budget for 2023, 2024. Counselor Donahue, would you read that first motion, please, for the adoption of the operating budget?
Resolved that the following general fund appropriations of the town of Newington are hereby adopted for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending July 30th, 2024, in accordance with section 805 of the charter of the town of Newington. Appropriations, town operations, general government, $6,536,306. Public safety, $10,273,855. Public Works, $5,749,346. Excuse me, 64. It's the guy to do it. Community Planning and Development, $658,826. Public Health, $231,615. Community Services, $1,136,886. Public Library,
68.
what did I say?
68.
66, a couple bucks here and there. Public Library, $1,891,048. Parks and Recreation, $2,162,019. Insurance Miscellaneous, $12,195,061. Insurance Miscellaneous, $40,834,962. Debt Service, $3,395,132. Metropolitan District, $4,868,658. Capital Improvements, $4,929,400. Equipment Reserve, $1,229,691. Employee Leave Liability Reserve Fund, $54,900. Board of Education, $82,199,830, for a total appropriation of $137,512,573. Be it further resolved that in accordance with section 805 of the Charter of the Town of Newington, the following general fund estimated revenues to be raised to meet these appropriations. Estimated revenues. Current taxes, $95,663,801. Prorated taxes, $1,130,637. Prior year taxes, $400,000. Interest and liens, $350,000. Motor vehicle tax, $10,571,819. Payment in lieu of taxes, $5,830,057. Cannabis tax, $100,000. Assessments, $1,600, $349. Leases and permits, $784,500. Rentals, $100,000. Income interest, $250,000. Fines, $22,000. Charges for services, $648,600. Refunds and reimbursements, $22,000. Sale of town property, $5,300. State aid, $17,447,014. Federal aid, $9,000. Miscellaneous, $90,000. Transfers from other funds, $386,126. For a balance of $133,827,203. General fund balance applied, $3,685,370, for a total estimated revenues and applied fund balance of $1,137,512,573. Be it further resolved, the clerk is hereby instructed to place the accompanying general fund budget summary on the record of this meeting to illustrate the above appropriations and revenue estimates. Be it further resolved that the following budget is hereby adopted for the public school capital improvement projects reserve fund beginning fiscal year July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. Appropriation, district-wide HVAC, $160,000. District-wide security and safety, $60,000. Painting, $50,000. Carpeting, $50,000. District-wide playground renovations, $50,000. District-wide technology infrastructure, $750,000. District-wide blacktop paving, $50,000. District-wide vehicles, $30,000. Total appropriations, $1,200,000. Estimated revenue, general fund appropriations, $125,000. Interest earnings, $2,000. Tuition receipts, $1 million. School rental receipts, $73,000. Total estimated revenues and applied fund balance, $1.2 million. Unless it's a page you didn't share with
I don't have it in front
me.
of me.
Okay.
Is there a second? Second by Counselor Menke. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, John. That was a tough one. Next this evening is the adoption of the long-range capital improvement plan for 2023-2024 through 2027-2028. Counselor Rada?
Resolved, the Newington Town Council hereby adopts the Town of Newington Long Range Capital Improvement Plan 2023 to 2024 through 2027, 2028, a final copy of which will be on file in the town clerk's office. Note, this vote is binding only for the funds committed for fiscal year 2023-24. The proposed funding for 24-25 through 27-28 is for planning purposes only and is subject to change through future budget deliberations.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Camillo. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item this evening is for us to set the mill rate for fiscal year 2023-2024. Deputy Mayor Bedrejko.
Resolved, in accordance with section 805 of the town charter of the town of Newington, town council hereby fixes a tax rate of 38.36 mils for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024, which shall be levied on taxable real and personal properties and in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes 417 to 418. There shall be a tax rate of 32.46 mils for motor vehicles property in the town of Newington listed on the October 1st, 2022 grand list, and said tax shall become due and payable in accordance with section 43-1 of the Newington Code of Ordinances. The town manager is hereby authorized to make out and sign the mill rate bill in accordance with this motion.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Nagel. Any discussion on this? I would just add one more time, thanks to the superintendent of schools and her staff and Board of Education for the collaborative efforts that they were willing to come forward to the table and work with us on getting to an agreement that would fit both the objective of this council in terms of keeping the mill rate as low as possible, but also meeting the needs of the Board of Education to avoid layoffs and make sure that they are able to continue with their programming. So I would just like
And
to
my screen is
once again
telling me.
thank Dr. Brummett, and I know Lou Giacomowitz worked with her on crunching some numbers for us too. So thank you to you. Without your collaboration on this, we wouldn't be able to pass the mill rate where it is today, which is the motion on the screen is a decrease of 0.13 mils to the mill rate. So thank you for your efforts with us, and thank you to the entire council. I know the last several weeks have been filled with not just meetings in public, but behind the scenes, just trying to go through the budget line by line and make changes and recommendations and figure things out. So I appreciate the efforts of every single one of us here on the council that really put the time and effort into making sure we could get here tonight. So thank you, everyone. All right, we have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, and our new mill rate will be 38.36. All right, next we are moving on to new business. This evening we have before us for presentation the bid waiver for Parks and Grounds line striping machine. James, if you would, or Janet.
Janet's
All
got
right.
this one.
Ms. Murphy, thank you. Ms. Murphy's here on her husband's birthday, by the way. So
Been married
Thank
too
you.
long, we don't worry about that anymore. As per the memo I sent you, remember back in January, we did a transfer to purchase this line striping machine. It's based on a GPS function. It's new technology to do the fields with. When we originally, Parks brought it for me, I think they thought there was more than one manufacturer for this piece of equipment. There is not. There's only one. So they are looking to get a bid waiver for this because this is a sole provider. And it's over our bid requirements of 30,000. So it's pretty straightforward. They're looking to get it from a company, the Turf Robotics of Hartford.
Okay. Council questions? Pretty
What was
straightforward.
the
Go ahead,
cost of this
Councilor
again?
Menke.
45,000.
45,000?
They're looking to go forward with it so they can get it ordered and get it in.
Mhm.
The money's already set aside. It's just the fact that they need to get the bid ready.
Okay.
And
So
this-
we're just.
This is
okay.
out of, I'm sorry, this is out of the CIP fund? I'm sorry, that's all the question I
No,
have.
that's fine. So we would be looking to take action on this at our next meeting on the 25th. Everybody good? All right, thank you.
Have a good night, guys.
Wish your husband a happy birthday.
Yeah.
All right, next item this evening is AFSCME wage reopener fiscal year 2023-2024 agreement. Mr. Kropinski.
I'm so happy it's done.
You are.
So when we originally negotiated the ASME contract in 2020, which was signed in June of 2021, the union and the leadership in the town were not in agreement with doing longer than a 3-year contract without having a wage reopener as part of it. So as part of this last year of the contract, beginning July of 2023, that wage reopener was coming due. So in late January, I spoke with the leadership as well as their ASME representation. We set up a early meeting, got to some points where we ended up going to a mediator. Back and forth for about 3.5 hours. We finally got to the point where we both came to about a 3% increase overall. We had pieces in, options for special days or an extra personal day. At the end of the day, both of us came to the agreement that a flat 3 was the easiest way to implement. And we both signed that agreement, which actually you have in your packet and is on screen at the moment. You'll see in the previous years, they had a 2% increase for the first 3 years of those contracts. And if you'll remember going way back, we actually did a retroactive for the union as well in order to make them whole as part of the first year of that contract as well. So it's a good settlement overall. We are seeing higher rates in the current settlements that are coming out from ASME in their memberships throughout the state. Not as high as what they originally presented to us, which they started at a 4%. But we are seeing them start to tick up, especially based upon the economy that we're in. But I'm happy to say that it's completed. I'm also happy to say we're nearly done with their settlement agreement as well, and everything should be wrapped up very shortly.
Do we need to take action on this, or is this ratified through
We'll
them?
need to take
Okay.
action on it the next meeting because it is an amendment to the approved collective bargaining
Okay.
agreement that's already in place. So this one you definitely will. The secondary one, the settlement, I don't believe you'll have to, but I will confirm that with our labor attorney.
Okay. Counselor Page?
Thanks, Mayor. Just one question. Is this above and beyond any other, what in some guild organizations they refer to as like a step increase?
We don't do a step increase. We do have, it's a very weird contract because there are so many levels inside of it. We've got the town side and the board side in this contract, as well as secretarial at the police department, the tax office, the assessor's office. It's a very strange setup. So they get their 2%. Some of them get a weird little, they can come up to another level inside of that based on which year it's in. It's very strange.
Okay.
It's an unusual contract for me to even have seen. I'm more familiar with contracts that do have step levels that build up throughout the contract and based upon qualification.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I would just say thank you, because I know this was a long and arduous process.
It was. I'm happy to work with them. We have a much better working relationship right now. I actually have met just individually with the union representative, Ms. Sunderland. And we sit down just about once every month or so and just have a conversation.
Great.
With our settlement, we'll actually have an agreement where we will actually be setting up either monthly or quarterly meetings with the union representation, the membership themselves, specifically Parks and Highway, but could be other areas, to be able to discuss their issues, see what they're having problems with, and being able to effectively vent to management is really what it's for. Because a lot of times they're not listened to, or they don't feel like they're represented enough or supported enough, and we're going to change that.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment or question? All right, then we'll move that to our next agenda for consideration.
Perfect.
Next item this evening is public participation. Just a reminder, this was a special meeting, so public participation is limited to items that were on the agenda this evening. Any member of the public may come forward. If you're in the room, you're welcome to come forward. We ask that you state your name and address for the record. We have a 3-minute time limit, and there is a sliding bar on the screen that will help you kind of gauge the 3 minutes. If you are participating by Zoom and would like to participate, you can raise your hands in the participant or attendees window. We do have someone online with their hand up. Ms. Lyons?
Hi, Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive, and I'll try and get through this as quickly as possible. Just sitting here and watching what was going on, my head is spinning, and I'll have to digest what was said, but I have to comment on it tonight, and I realize there's no back and forth. I thought that the ARPA funds couldn't be used to reduce the mill rate, but what I'm hearing tonight is that is exactly what you did with almost $2 million taken out of my favorite account, the CIP account. And being taken out of there, you're proposing to put it in for allocation out of the ARPA funds. I also thought that it was the town manager who made the decision where the ARPA funds were going to be spent, but apparently that I misunderstood as well. I don't believe I'm really saying this, but I'm saying it. I would have rather you had left the CIP the way it was and suggested that $2.5 million be allocated from the ARPA funds for matching the bonding that could come out of the legislature. Some way we're going to end up paying for this, whether it be this year or next year, and just a 1 point whatever drop in the mill rate really doesn't make a difference to me. I know Mr. Mankey doesn't like paying for somebody else's trash to be taken away. Well, as a senior, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one in this position. I don't have any children in school. I don't have any grandchildren in school. I don't have anybody that uses the park and rec programs, but I like to see what is done and be done right. I'm a little bit upset that 18 months went by between the pool committee meetings, and I'm even more upset that there was miscommunication, that it was only going to be a repair and not a replacement or a new pool built. Just a lot of things were said tonight that have me shaking my head. And one of them is the fact that the highway garage is not a pretty thing, but it has to get done. And I understand that, and I'm all for it. Don't get me wrong about that. But I'm also going to say one more thing about, put a little plug in for the South Branch of the Park River. Dredging isn't a pretty thing either, but neither is flooding. Our website isn't a pretty thing, and there's so much money being put towards technology here, and yet I have not yet heard anybody mention making our town website more user-friendly. Again, I'm hearing that only the 23-24 fiscal year is written in stone with the CIP, and yet anything going forward can be changed. Yet I thought that was something that the town manager said that he didn't want to do, the former town manager. So again, I applaud you for all your efforts and the time and the work that you've put into it. But as Councilor Mankey said, the turf field is past its prime. Well, I guess I'm past my prime too, because my head is spinning in circles, and this is the second turf field that I've seen go in the last 12 years. All right. Thank you. Good night. Have a good one.
Thank you, Ms. Lyons. All right. Anyone else that would like to come forward is welcome to. I do not see any hands up in the attendees window. No one is coming forward in person, so we will move on to remarks by councilors. Councilor Mankey?
I just stand corrected by Ms. Lyons. Dredging is probably a lot less sexier than a town garage and probably a lot more dirtier than a town garage. And I agree that dredging is important. That river flows through a good part of our town, or the I used to call it a brook. I guess it's a brook. But it goes through a good part of our town. And I remember years ago when they did dredge it with payloaders, and they only went so far. And so I agree that's an important project. Money for the ARPA funds can be used for projects. We use this money for projects to get needed projects done and started. And that's what the money can be used for. It did help reduce the mill rate, but it also helped get some projects off to a start.
Okay. Counselor Page?
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to make a couple comments about process. This is my second go around with the budget. The first time we had last year an MOU, and there wasn't much to debate or discuss. I think it was agreed upon by everyone that we were doing a good thing for our schools, and we moved forward. This second time around, because there were more moving parts, I became aware, especially tonight, although it came to my attention after Councilor Rada and I made our proposal a meeting or two ago for a few items, which we then voted on, that this process, it really stinks, because as someone who's seeing how the sausage is made, but maybe more importantly for our residents, it feels like we do this last minute scurrying in the hall as we go back and forth on what we'd like to propose. And then we vote in a hasty way, even though we made plenty of time for discussion tonight. But given the import of what we're doing, I would like us to look at changing this process next year so that we can all come forward with our proposals a week or two, a meeting before we then digest and process that further and maybe have some exchanges and then come forward with what we did tonight. It seems to me like we rush this last minute, and I don't think it does a service to us making these decisions. I don't think it does a good service to our residents, and it doesn't give people a chance to come out and either cheer on a decision by you or us or together, or give us heck for a proposal, and have a little time to do that. And I would just like to see more of that. I think we'd have more participation by folks, and I think it would be a richer, more meaningful bit of work that we do. And that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
All right. Counselor Camillo?
Did a really good job. Have a budget for a business, try to get all the small projects done first, and have a savings plan for the bigger projects like pools, ball fields, etc. And we got a lot done. A lot of projects that are going to get finished this year. And thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Bedrejko?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Mitch, and I think, there's always room for improvement, and as we keep going forward, but watching things at the state level certainly, and certainly at the federal level, they're no more advanced than we are. So, but I just want to kind of just make a comment overall about the process. First of all, obviously thanking Janet, Lou, Superintendent Brummett, James, the department heads, and all of us here at this table. As you saw, budgeting is not an easy process, but the growth and stability of Newington really required discipline. And I think that's what, one thing we're learning as we go along too. We have to be aware of things that are going on, outside of our borders, inflation, the current situation, economic predictions for the future. We also have to remain cognizant that this influx of, these COVID funds, whatever, are not going to last forever. At some point, that's going to stop. We have to, in our minds, say what's a true need versus, a really nice want. We have to ensure we're able to pay our bills as a community and a municipality, but yet also look forward to the future and not remain stagnant. And while we're doing that, difficult choices have to be made because resources are finite. And also, recognizing that we've got an obligation to all residents of this town, the ones who make the most noise and then the ones who just kind of sit in their house and hopefully assume that we're doing things in their best interest as well. So there's an awful lot of audiences, segments, demographics, and vested interests that we have an obligation to serve all of them. And also we have an obligation to the taxpayers to mitigate whatever impact we can, especially in these past couple of years, because each household is facing their own budget issues, their own budget crises. So while mitigating the impact on them, but yet they also want to live in a nice town, and they've come to expect a quality of life that luckily we've been able to, as a community, provide for them. And I believe that this budget accomplishes a lot, as Councilor Camillo has said. We were able to give the school a 4.5% increase. We supported our first responders. There were no layoffs. We addressed infrastructure needs that were very important, and we addressed, kept our roads moving forward with the plan. We kept parks and recreation. There's projects, for turf fields and playgrounds. And we maintained a level of services that our residents expect. And we're able to respect their pocketbook and keep the mill rate, keep the mill rate low. So I congratulate all of us, and also the civility, because I have sat on councils where there wasn't civility, and obviously we don't agree on everything, but I feel like I can talk to all of you. So that's really important to moving forward. So congratulations to all. Yes.
Councilor Nagel?
I would like to echo what has just been said so eloquently and thoroughly by our deputy mayor, that indeed this process, while it may be cumbersome and difficult at times, is one that ultimately seems to work. And this year it seems to be a collaboration, a respect for each other, a presenting of different ideas, whether we agreed ultimately or not, that were worth considering and deliberating and coming to a conclusion which hopefully is in the best interests of the town generally, and that those people of the town know that this council, everyone on this council, as well as our workers, town staff who worked diligently on this, have been looking towards the best interests of the town and not the best interests of one individual or one particular project as opposed to another. And I believe we have, without patting myself on the back, but patting others on the back, have done a commendable job given what is going on around us within the state as well as federally, in terms of as well as the economy itself in terms of finances, and is helping our community to feel safe, to feel that indeed they are in a community that genuinely cares about them.
Thank you. Anyone else? Just, I know I mentioned earlier the collaboration with the superintendent, but I wanted to make sure that, and others have mentioned it, but the last few weeks, I know I've spent a lot of hours in town hall and bugging Mr. Krasinski and Ms. Murphy quite a bit to make sure that thoughts and items that we were considering kind of made sense in the overall scheme of things. There have been times in the past where we thought it made sense to, cut something or change something, and then town staff has much more knowledge on that and would say that really doesn't make sense. So I want to thank especially you, James and Janet, for the countless phone calls and emails and just general discourse that we had over the last few weeks to make sure we got to where we were tonight and we're able to move forward. I don't disagree, Councilor Page, that the process is a little, it is flawed in some ways, that there's not a lot of time in between. Some of that is kind of set by charter in terms of the timelines that we have available for when budgets come in and when we're able to start deliberating and whatnot. And I would assure you that just today, Councilor Mankey and I were talking and meeting with Janet to finalize numbers, because we still hadn't quite tweaked and finalized things and gotten things in line the way they needed to be. So there are those last minute changes and tweaks that need to happen. So I do appreciate that during our recess, we were able to collaborate and talk a bit about each of our proposals to make sure we understood more before coming back in. And I appreciate that dialogue. So I thank everyone again for the efforts over the last few weeks, and I'm glad we're here with a finalized budget and mill rate.
I'm just glad we can stop carrying this book around.
Yes, that too. Speaking of bulk pickup weeks. All right. So next item this evening is, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Page.
Everybody.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We stand adjourned at 9:46 p.m. Thank you, everyone.